welcome.
Right. Thanks, Dan. Nice
Welcome, Mastro, to Collateral Banter, episode 23. 23. 23.
Wow, that is crazy. Is it really episode 23?
It is episode 23, and I know you've listened to all 22 episodes.
No, 23 is such a huge number. 23 and all.
23 and me.
There's,
you giving up your genetic coding?
23 and me, yeah. I just, we did that a while back.
Did you? What'd you find?
Yeah.
Why did you give out your DNA
despite my
to the internet?
Despite my last name, which would lead people to think I'm of a certain cultural background, and
sure.
In fact, I have very little DNA from that particular place, and I've got a substantial amount from Ireland, which I always knew.
Okay.
Good percentage Irish, and French, which I would have never admitted to, but I am now.
Oh, so you're French.
Keeping score at home, I am 25%.
Mastro is French. 25%. That's a lot.
That's a ton.
That's a lot.
I know I've got Canadian heritage on both sides of my family, so I have the Lanoux family, or my great-grandmother's family. It all came down from Canada back in whenever. And my mother's mother's also Canadian, so. But we're not here to talk about that today, are we?
Are you sure? I don't know.
The 23 thing was significant. I just say that. It was an odd coincidence.
Do you know what we're here to talk about? We're here to discuss aliens invasion that's upcoming. Yeah, did you know about that?
I wasn't aware that we determined there was an impending...
There is likely, and no, I'm making that up. Okay. I'm making that up. So let's start off. 2019, right? Happened. This is the most unbelievable stories. There's been 2 stories about outer space. The first one is what they call FRBs. Was it frequent
radio bursts?
Frequent radio bursts. Thank you. Yeah. There we go. I got distracted by this audio.
Playing under.
CNN causing trouble again.
Oh, okay.
Jeez, CNN just does not stop. Yeah, so it's a frequent radio burst. And here's the thing. There's a lot of them. From the articles that you and I have been reading, what is strange, and it's the second time it's happened, is that it's coming from a place very far away, and it's on repeat.
Yes.
And we heard it together, actually. You went and found it.
Whoever had done that did a fantastic job with slowing it down. It ran through 5 cycles and progressively slower each time. Right. Which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
It didn't make anything really intelligible out of it.
It did help us hear it better. And it's what? FRB 121102. Right. I love the names.
Now, does that mean there have been 121101 other FRBs that have been investigated?
That's a very good question. We'd have to research that. I will call some scientists and ask. I could ask my dad. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're surrounded by colleges here.
Colleges here.
Somebody here is.
That's right. Somebody does. We'll figure it out. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think it could be? Look, everybody's guessing about something near a black hole, something extremely powerful. Apparently, is causing the signal to reach. But it was 500,000 times stronger than anything they've ever received. Mm-hmm. So it is something massive happening in this galaxy very far away that is changing things. And I just fascinated by that because it's something that is abnormal to FRBs.
I don't know. The things that we track radio signals from are naturally, I know, like pulsars emit radio waves, and that we can listen to them, that there's an actual beat to the pulsar, like an actual rhythmic pulse to the however fast this thing is rotating. So maybe it's something like that. I don't claim to be a scientist or even really have any great scientific education. I'm just interested in this stuff, so
that's why I brought you.
I like to read. I like to read stuff. I am kind of a science. I do for some reason.
It's good enough. Being a science dork means you know more science than about 99.8% of the population. So.
Maybe. I would never admit that, but I do know that reading the information that's come down the line now since I guess it wasn't the first. I guess the fact that this has caught people's attention is because it happened before. And so they'd been tracking it, and it came back around. Right? So now they're saying, oh, okay, so this is a cyclical thing, repeating itself. Space is crazy. There's all kinds of stuff going on out there. There's all kinds of just massive, powerful black holes and stars exploding and, things that are happening in this vastness of space. And they're saying this, they've pinpointed this burst is particularly dense part of space. Who knows? Maybe it's something that's out there, that this massive dancing cluster of stars that get masked behind some other stuff, and then they're on this weird giant rotation that comes around every so often. Pick it up and then it goes away again. And then, I don't know. Or maybe it's an alien civilization.
There we go. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that. That's what I wanted.
Okay, I kind of felt like that's what you were hoping I would say.
No, you were giving me the scientific answer and then the exact.
I thought it would be best if we stick down that road
later.
Science and then approach the...
No, you're right. It's probably not. But they did say it's a 3 billion light years away in the constellation Auriga. And I just find that to be fascinating. Well, here's the thing that's most fascinating is that we don't really know how space works, right? We know a lot about our system, but there's so many unknowns.
Yes.
There's so many things that we can't explain.
Right.
I also think that's why people talk about aliens and civilizations, because sometimes we can't be alone.
No.
Maybe there are aliens, but they don't look like us. Like, we can't just think that they're going to have some figures that resemble humans in any shape, way, or form. We have to think outside the box. Now, look, the probability that there is life outside this galaxy, absolutely. I think the probability is strongly that there is.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's just we don't yet know how to get there. We don't yet know how to explore. Although I bring this in because I really think that this is the next phase of human civilization. Like, all of this emphasis that we see today in 2019 in science is because the next 50 or 100 years, it is where we're going if the planet doesn't end from some catastrophic environmental things. But the planet will survive. The probability is that human beings have to go out and expand in our civilization across the universe. And so space travel is the future. It's the future of us. I'm a bit of a futurist. I am. This is what I believe in, is that this is the progress from when we first started civilization back in Babylon. We're headed that way. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I had to bring you in. Ready? So that was Article 1. Yeah. I want to bring you to Article 2. Okay. And this one's even more interesting. You can talk about either one, but... There was an object. Oumuamua. We'll call it that. Oumuamua. Something like that. Well, here's the thing. The head of the astronomy department at Harvard, no less. Right. I want to read here from a CNN article in describing what this object that reached our civilization from another galaxy, which hasn't happened yet. It's first time. Mm-hmm. Here's what he said. Light sails with similar dimensions have been designed and constructed by our own civilization, including the Icarus Project Starshot Initiative. The light sail technology might be abundantly used for transportation of cargo between planets or between stars. This would account for the various anomalies of Oumuamua, such as unusual geometry inferred from light curve, its low thermal emission, suggesting high reflectivity in its deviation from Kepleronian orbit without any sign of cometary tail or spin-up torque. Oumuamua is the first object ever seen in our solar system that is known to have originated elsewhere. And they go on to guess the evidence about this object, Oumuamua, is not conclusive, but interesting. It could be truly exciting that once we have conclusive evidence. Later on, he talked.
I don't think we should downplay the significance of the fact that the guy who championed this whole theory is the astronomy department at Harvard. This is a dude who's got a lot to lose. He conceivably has spent his entire life trying to get to this point in his career. Don't think that he would want to do anything or postulate any sort of theories that would jeopardize his credibility amongst his peers in the field. And where he's at is pretty significant. The fact that it's coming from him just really, I think, is kind of the thing that threw me over the edge. It was
right.
I mean, because I think I saw this originally. I see most things nowadays flipping through my Facebook page. I came upon this because, believe it or not, most of my page, I've managed to weed out all the crap, like the dumb posts from people and the politics stuff. And now I'm getting a lot of dogs and science and music videos, which is where I want my Facebook page to be.
You'd thank Mark Zuckerberg for that.
Yeah, yeah. So I saw this as a Facebook post. And I remember my girlfriend and I think we were in bed watching TV one night. Oh, check this out. The possible space probe. And she's the eternal, no way. That's crap. I won't believe it until I see something else. Then we looked into it, found that, in fact, this has been acknowledged by the science community.
Possibility.
Possibility. Right?
Yes, and here's what they wrote in the article. Oumuamua may be a fully operational probe sent intentionally to Earth vicinity by an alien civilization. Again, How did we not capture it when we had the chance? That is my question. How did the government not capture? Can you imagine the ratings off of that? Right?
Well,
I mean, where's Elon Musk at that moment to come
now
and rescue us?
Now we can go a couple of places with this, right? So now we can go with the whole idea that we've already got a significant presence in space that would allow us to be able to do such a thing, that we've been testing these extra vehicular, call them spaceships, right?
Sure.
That have been operating in space under these whole like black ops secret.
Oh, yeah.
Super dark.
We'll get there.
Thing, right? Things that like our president is going to be briefed on now that he's in his second term, right? So my understanding is that they wait a couple of years before they reveal to the president of the United States these other super high classified programs that are going on for whatever reason. Maybe they won't tell him anything.
Yeah, he might not be the right.
I don't think that he would be a good candidate.
Can you imagine him at a rally? There are aliens, everybody. They're already here.
Yeah.
They're already here.
Yeah. Everything you know about everything.
It explains so much.
Yeah.
No, wait, hold on. One more amazing part that I just had to read here. And this is, again, the Harvard professor with others. The paper that is an elongated dark red object, which is 10 times as long as it is wide, and traveling at speeds of 196,000 miles per hour, might have an artificial origin. Nobody really knows the answer, right? It's a lot. It seems very much like I can see the connection to religion too, right? Like it's like we don't know what happens in the afterlife, so we create stories to hopefully make sense of it.
Sure.
You know? And it's hard to disprove or not prove, right?
That's true.
That's what it's all based on.
Now they're talking about that this thing came from outside our solar system, but could have come from somewhere else within our galaxy.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's
true.
kind of
that's
like,
true. They were making that clear.
If it's traveling at this speed, and my understanding was that, and I get it, it came in at one speed and then left at another speed
and accelerated.
But it also did a lap around the sun to pick up momentum to exit, which is what happens with a lot of things that comets. Again, bringing up what you had said about the fact that this thing didn't have traditional sort of wear and tear from a trip around the sun that comets, you know, their tail, like ice and all that stuff, and the pieces of rock and the material that is basically shed. It was not happening here. And just the shape of the thing is, I don't know. I'm really kind of floored by the whole thing.
You wanted to discuss aliens, and I gotta say that to me that's some strong evidence that it could be something from alien civilization.
It could be.
It could be. I mean,
but
again, most scientists have to say that until we have evidence confirming that, obviously it's just the theory, and they rather try to base their theories on scientific proof and evidence. That's why it's minority opinion. The fact that this guy came from Harvard and maybe gave it some credence to being like, no, it's a real possibility. Mm-hmm. It's minor. It's very, very small. Right? Until we know otherwise, right? It's like we can't get ourselves over that hurdle to get ourselves convinced by it. But it does raise questions. In 2 months, I don't know. And I'm not at all saying they're connected in any way. Like the fact that in 2 months in this year, we've already had these type of stories starts making me think like, you know what? Let's talk about Bob Lazar. Let's talk about Area 51. What have we known? Maybe we should do a whole episode in the future about these stories. By the way, and I didn't do any research on this topic, but I don't know if you've seen the last maybe 5 or 10 years, there have been more and more credible stories of unidentified objects in the sky, especially by airports and military bases in Europe specifically now. I'm just trying to remember from like Ireland or the UK, and they were seeing things that they could not identify, and then they went away and they were just floored by it. And this was like government officials being like, we don't know what the hell that is. I probably should have done some research on that if I wanted to bring that up, but it just makes me, besides maybe a person going to Nevada and being like, I saw aliens. Anybody could say that, doesn't mean it's true. But also I don't want to tell them that they're liars. They could have seen it, right? There's a possibility. There's always that possibility. Yeah. And again, probability is that there are aliens. I just don't know if we're smart enough to even know they're here or they're there. Or they're in space. I mean, maybe these objects are. Also, there's a lot of government secret programs, and a lot of these objects that we do see on space, according to the government,
Yes.
are in fact these things. By the way, there's a show on the History Channel called
Blue Book?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it
But
either.
I seem to remember that there was a show called Blue Book, Project Blue Book, or
Project
something.
Blue Book.
Was that what it was? It was like
Yeah,
back
it's
in
on
the
history.
70s.
Was it back in the 70s? Okay, is this a remake then?
It may be.
All right.
I mean, if we weren't recording now, I would look it up. But I mean, I knew about Project Blue Book, and maybe it was just something I'd heard In Search Of or something, because that was a show that really, as a kid, for whatever reason, I think for
obvious reasons.
A lot of people, for obvious
reasons. You enjoyed it.
People love that.
So you tell me, what do you think about it? So you think they're...
What do I think? Well, I wanted to go back to what we were talking about, the way we think about things, the way we're capable of thinking. We're human beings that possess incredible powers as a species to do things. And we haven't arrived, I don't think, at the place in our cognitive abilities that allows us to see a bigger picture. Meaning, I think that we're limiting ourselves, or we're limited just to our capability of understanding. How much are we capable of understanding? How much are we, because of our faculties, what we can see and hear, and we can't see multiple dimensions.
Right.
Can some people maybe? I don't know. Is that possible? I do believe in the whole multiverse thing. Absolutely.
If you care to share what that is.
And so, the multiverse theory basically states that we're living in this essentially a web, I suppose, of interconnected universes, that we're existing, where we are. All of this is existing at multiple levels across multiple universes. I can't do it justice really trying to explain. Okay. I should have done my homework.
No, it's fine.
But that our reality could be existing. Every version
is in a different,
every possibility
in a different dimension
is existing simultaneous. Our biggest argument against aliens coming to Earth from other places is the distance. Right? We think about it in that respect. So long to get anywhere, traveling at the speed of light. We can't comprehend the possibility of traveling faster than the speed of light, even though we watch shows all the time where faster than light drives. Or commonplace. Everything is, faster than light. But, so just take that for a second. Let's take Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, yes.
Right? So their FTL drive essentially just popped them from one place to another it's like a quantum leap, essentially, where, an electron can be in one place, or a subatomic particle can be at one place and then appear at another place without having traveled the distance between those places, right? That's the quantum leap, right?
Right.
Sort of. And I apologize to anybody out there who's offended by my lack of scientific
Screw them. That's not how this works. Go figure it out.
Okay. I gave my disclaimer. That's my thought. I believe that way more than Millennium Falcon powering up and then just blasting off and then just flying faster than the motherfucker to its next destination.
Right.
I believe more like the Battlestar Galactica thing, where they just boom and then they pop out where
they'll bend space somehow. Is that how they pop into another location?
That's the thing. It's I don't. That's what I'm saying. I can't leave one place and then end up somewhere else, in a split second.
Well, think about it back in 1776. Could any of them have understood an airplane that could fly us from one location to another in the span of 4 hours?
No,
6 hours?
Nothing that we see in this room right now could be other than the doorknobs. But so much of all of this has happened in 100 years.
Right.
All of these major technological breakthroughs happen. The technology, how it doubles every.
Oh, yeah.
What is
right.
Right.
I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. That things are happening and improvements are made at exponential rates now. Right. I mean, we've gone from riding around in carriages to landing on the moon. That whole. Going back to what you were talking about, what do I think about aliens? So my thought is that they aren't necessarily coming from somewhere far away. I think they're coming from dimensional.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's interesting.
What I mean? Yeah. That is far away. It is still far away. But it's not one galaxy to another galaxy necessarily. Right. It's thinking about a place in time to a place in time more.
That's why we're blowing people's minds right there, man. I'm telling you, most people aren't scientists listening to this. Man, that is good. No. Can I tell you? So here's my theory about aliens. What I think is interesting about it is if we ever did encounter them, how we would change as a species. And I want to bring that up because I think it's interesting if aliens were to come, that most human beings would then realize that God doesn't exist. There's a theory out there that many people would give up on God, right? We were God's people. God chose, we're God's creation. Right. And if we were to prove that there are aliens, then we realize that God isn't real. I don't know. That's one person's theory.
See, I don't know why you would think that.
I don't know either. And maybe I'm crazy to even say that, but that people would question religion if aliens are real.
I don't want to go off.
Wait, one last one. This one I think I want to bring up to you because that was just a side note. But I do think if they ever did come, they would bring likely disease to us human beings. And I believe, and you could think this is crazy, but many of us would die. In many ways, like the Europeans that traveled over to the Aztecs and the Incas, vast majority of the deaths there were from disease. The aliens come in and they arrive. I don't know if but once they come in, we won't be able to necessarily, many of us won't be able to survive that initial contact. Like human beings in our history who were from different continents and didn't know each other or what, and bringing about disease in annoying local populations. So I just want to throw those two out there. Okay. And then I want to throw one more theory here to credit to my dad, who thought of this. He talks about how humans change over time, like revolutions and things like that. Yeah. Which he then attributes to, like, quantum theory is rapid change, right? It's very unstable. Okay. Versus Newtonian change, which is this gradual, right? Yeah. Gradual process. Change, gradual process of change. And so his theory oftentimes is we're very much dictated to by these laws of science, that gradual change brings about long-term change, but it's so slow and gradual that we don't realize it. But whenever have these quantum, rapid, unstable changes, we likely just revert back to a conservative mode. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as the science that I know. But it all relates to humans. But But go ahead.
All that physics too, the momentum thing, all that applies even to us psychologically. I think that you've been a certain way for so long that to expect a quantum change overnight. Yeah, I used to go to these meditation retreats where that was basically what they would say. Go easy with yourself because you've been crazy your whole life, so you can't expect the pushback from your own momentum. You can't expect that you're not going to have your own momentum working against you the way you've been, the way we've been as a species, the way we, that's why through all these years, why can't we just have peace in this world? Why can't we just figure out that war isn't doing anybody any good and that power is this elusive thing that no one ever really has and yet striving for? And why haven't we figured out that there's a better way to be, right?
You talked about our development as a species. Yeah. So that's probably an answer why. Well, one answer, possibly why. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you one other thing. You're talking about changes. I
feel like I'm a babbling idiot right now.
No, it's great. It's amazing, dude. If you follow science stories, I heard this, and correct this if I'm wrong here, but our aging process is different when we're in outer space. Yeah. In another orbit. What do you know about that? You age differently than you would age on Earth. I just find that to be so crazy and so fascinating, but I don't know. I'm going to put that easy one on science.
Living on Earth, just look at me. It appears that my body is reacting to the effects of gravity way more than it did when I was younger. Muscle tone changes. Muscle tone changes now at low gravity environments. It's difficult to keep up. You don't need really the same muscle tone to maintain your skeleton, to maintain or whatever, counteract the effects of gravity. So I can see that. And actually, we've been watching a show on Amazon, didn't even know it had been on, but it's been on for a while, where this is 150 years into the future, I think it is. And then now they have an earthbound, people still living on Earth. We've colonized Mars and people are living on Mars. And then we've got people who've been living in the asteroid belt in these mining communities that have never known
the expanse.
The expanse. Thank you.
Yeah,
yes.
I watch it.
Yeah.
It's a show.
I think it's great.
But they canceled it, right? Or Amazon just bought the rights, I think.
Yeah. It's on Amazon now.
It's on Amazon now. Yeah, they did the first 3 seasons on Sci-Fi.
Sci-Fi, right.
Yeah, or Sci-Fi, or whatever we call it.
Yeah, whatever.
Sci-fi
So
is.
it's fun that you brought this up because that's something that they talk about, like generations of people growing up in low gravity and, the effects that it has on their bodies and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me.
What is your favorite topic in science? Like, what do you love to read most about? I mean, is it just aliens and our finding it?
I don't know if I really spend a lot of time thinking about aliens. I'm intrigued by the idea. My guilty pleasure is watching Ancient Aliens. Not so much for that piece of it, but just because of the way they dive into human history and go to all these incredible places, both like man-made and geographical locations. And it's just so well done in that sense, like educationally that way. And I do think and have thought about how did we evolve as a species, as humans, with the abilities that we have. And again, it would seem like a quantum leap because of that missing link where we still don't understand how we got from Neanderthal to human, what we know as like a modern human being. Although maybe Neanderthal is an earlier version of the human, right?
Right.
So not Neanderthal, but prior similar species of primate, that sort of thing. Anyway, but that, again, that's very little time. So what do I think? I'm actually more fascinated by quantum physics. I'm interested in paranormal stuff. I straight up believe in ghosts. I've had experiences. I've recorded things myself. I'm not a ghost hunter, but I actually have actively sought out evidence and gotten it. And so, now I really have no reason to not believe anymore.
Should be an alien hunter.
Well,
no,
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But I'm interested in what's going on with the noetic sciences, like the Institute of Noetic Sciences, IONS, in California.
What is that?
They do a lot of research into cognition and cognitive psychic abilities and that sort of thing. And researching that sort of stuff. And the head researcher, Dean Radin, here's another odd coincidence. So this guy, Dean Radin, has written tons of books and has gotten the blessings of a lot of what we would consider more traditional scientific people, because we still want to reject this other research as crap because,
because we want to.
Because we want to. Because people feel the need to resist that.
Of course.
Knowledge and change.
Of course.
But this guy, Dean Radin, turns out he's the brother of my dentist when I was growing up. Who lived at the top of my street. His brother Leonard. And they look exactly alike if you saw him. But I saw him on TV. I was actually watching that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? Which is, essentially about quantum physics and how it plays into where we're at as people, how it plays into us psychologically and emotionally and physically and all that stuff, And so anyway, that's my answer. That's what I'm into. That's in science. I like reading about that stuff.
And let me ask you this. Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica?
I've watched all of Battlestar Galactica 4 times.
Really?
And I'm on my 5th time through right now.
Wow.
With my girlfriend.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, what do you love most about it? Because I watched it only once, and I just amazing.
I just thought it was brilliant.
Wait, the one the story, the 70s or the remake?
The remake.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I liked the one in the 70s as well when I was a kid.
I heard people trash that one.
Huge fan of that. But that was the time I would be wanting something like that. I mean, it was came after Star Wars.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we need all this stuff. Yeah. I dig Star Trek. It's one of those things where I like watching it, but I never became a huge fan
of. Yeah.
I think I've watched all of the original Star Trek.
And what do you think in relation to technology and us as human beings? I know it's a question that I often discuss with myself is, how does technology shape us? What is our relationship to technology? You were talking about human beings and evolution and technology, and I mean that's certainly been a part of our evolution, I'd say. And
sure.
What do you think?
I think is that somehow technology improves our lives. That's the fundamental underlying sort of necessity, is that we need technology that
to live,
sure. That it improves our lives across the board. Improvements in technology improve everything else, whatever it is. But I also think And I think right now we're at a strange place where our access to information is so easy. And I always say I would love to be a student now,
right?
Growing up in an education system that we had back when I was growing up. I
Sure.
mean, not that I grew up in the schools that I went to were unfortunately not great. I had some decent teachers, but I really wasn't designed to function all that well in a traditional public school environment. That's another story.
That we'll eventually get into part 2.
But now, you know, the whole smartphone thing, social media, all that stuff. The unfortunate part of that to me is the distraction that it has become to people and in their lives. And here again, we're
built
talking
on
about
purpose for that.
why the reason that we're so fucking crazy in this world is that we are perpetually distracted. We always have been. But before, we were only distracted by what was going on in our head. We didn't need any outside influence because if you've ever spent any time alone, like significant amount of time. So like I was saying before, I've gone to these meditation retreats that are like 10 days long.
Wow.
Where you have nothing. You can't, there's no reading, there's no outside, nothing, man. There's absolutely zero distractions and you're just meditating like for 12 hours a day.
Wow.
Right? Or trying to.
Right.
I would say out of the 3 times that I've been to the Vipassana meditation retreat here, it's actually the local one. They're all over the world, but this particular form of meditation is basically you become a monk, you know, and you live this monastic lifestyle for 10 days where you eat a couple meals a day. You don't eat dinner after you've gone through the program. When you become an old student, they call you. And it's just focused on the meditation, and that's it. You don't talk. You don't.
Wow.
You have to swear off of lying and talking and sex and stealing. I mean, like you have to take these. You basically take this oath.
What is there to live for?
Like,
Come on.
My point of telling you this is only because I realized very quickly how crazy I am, and then I learned that it's not just me. It's that we are all this crazy.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting crazier. I think this is the reason. I think that, you know,
And this is
social media
cell
is
phone.
making us crazier people because it's keeping us perpetually distracted. Even more so. Now we've got places, you know, I mean, you walk down the street and you see people can't just walk down the street anymore. People have to be multitasking. They can't just... They have to be on their phone too.
Right.
You know, a teenager can't just sit somewhere and observe their environment or you know, commune with nature.
No.
They have to be connected somehow. You know, in one level, it's filling a hole that people feel like they have, but it's filling it with the wrong thing.
Right. That's a good way that's a brilliant way of putting it. I feel that same way. I mean, I lived in Boston for a long period of time, and I like observing people on the T. I am that weirdo who's staring at people.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've always like looking at them and seeing like, okay, what age, what job could they be doing? But it's so interesting that in the last 5 to 7 years, I've seen such an explosion of people's obsession with phones.
Yeah.
And how much time they spent looking into their phones and talking to friends and looking at their phones, and how much that has dominated life today in communication, where I could see a generation coming behind us. You know, I'm in my mid-30s, but in a generation coming like in their teens today, or early 20s, who might not communicate by looking at you. And they might only understand communicating through text and technology. I don't know. I remember an era where there was no internet. You had to talk to people. Look, they're good, positives and benefits on both sides of it, without a doubt.
Sure.
But that said, I'm tremendously worried about the attention span and recall ability of people. And I've noticed my own short-term memory wither away.
Yeah?
Like terribly, yes. In these last 4 or 5 years.
Sure.
I'm like terrified of that. I don't know, people say their names. I can't remember that. In the past, I could. There's just these short-term changes going on. Maybe it's the infinite communication and data. We don't have the ability to absorb all of that.
Right.
You know, like we're not built that way as human beings to be like constantly on Twitter, 1,000 tweets a day, 1,000 messages on Facebook, constantly. And people get burnt out when they start talking about like losing their mind and they can't produce. I mean, I can barely produce an episode a week. This is just me. And I don't even know how to use this technology. I'm just kind of winging it. Right? And so it's like, that's how this shit goes. But I do like it. But I know I have limits I got to put on it. I don't know. Then your final thoughts.
I just wanted to go back to what I was saying before. Yeah. So, where before it was like you spend a huge part of your time going over the same stuff in your head constantly. Like if you sat with yourself for a significant amount of time with no distractions, you would realize very quickly that you spend a huge part of your waking time going over the same stuff over and over and over, the same things, the same whatever. Somebody pissed you off the other day. You spend an incredible amount of time thinking about that. You're not happy about this other thing. And so now you've got that natural propensity to distract yourself because you lack the discipline. Yeah,
that's big.
To think about anything else or to know that it's happening and stop, regroup, whatever it takes, go in a different direction. And I believe that so your question about technology, I think technology has created a bigger challenge until we learn how to use it a little bit better. Like I think we're pretty close to people being like, I've had enough of Facebook. I've had enough of this.
Well, the young people are certainly. Yeah. It's interesting. It's sort of built for an older generation. That's sort of the trend of people in their 50s and 60s today.
Yes.
Are the ones who are using more and more Facebook. And the young people, they're on the Snapchat. They're on something totally else.
Which is even faster, even faster moving, even shorter snippets of their lives, just more of it.
And shorter dosages, smaller, less text.
So we've got this thing where, kids can't read a clock anymore. My buddy was just telling me the other day that his son doesn't even know how to write his own name. Because he doesn't have to do it. They don't have to do the. What are they teaching children?
I don't know.
The whole No Child Left Behind thing, I think, was devastating to us as a country with our education system.
Sure.
Where you're just basically now teaching kids to pass these tests, and the better your school system does at passing these tests, and the number of children who successfully achieve higher scores on these tests would dictate how much attention you get financially or whatever, that sort of thing, which is awful. It's terrible.
We're losing the ability to do the basic educations well. The writing, the reading, the basic math. I think sometimes it's escaping. Like word problems. Everybody hates those word problems. Everybody likes the simple, numbers in an equation or something like that. But once you begin to apply what you're supposed to be learning in math, man, everybody revolts. I think that's a failure of we don't start young enough with the word problems and just helping people connect.
Critical thinking.
The critical thinking, even within math, to be like, okay, let's apply this, what you've learned. I admit to you it's hard. I know. I know. I'm not saying anything's easy, but I also feel that we're losing some of the basics, ability to read, the writing. I know my penmanship and it's just gone away. And is this because technology is dictating to us, or should I just have the discipline to write? I don't know, but I don't have a good answer for that. But
again, it boils down to discipline.
Yeah, it does.
It boils down to discipline.
Like life is that. Ultimately, all life is about that, right? To just stay disciplined, repeat the same things. But there is something then to technology. You said that there is a bit of repetition. You begin to repeat yourself a little bit. That is a bit of a good skill, right? To develop that. Like if you need discipline, you need to be able to say from 4:45 till 5:45 or from 6 to 7 p.m. at night, I am writing. I don't care where I am, what I'm doing. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write.
I think that's the good counteraction to this. But then that's a self-motivating. That's something you have to bring yourself. Nobody's going to tell you that. You can seek it out. There are books. There are people talking about it. But ultimately, I just heard something about somebody. I don't know. Maybe it was on the radio, talking about this person who did that. I had to do this myself. I had to overcome certain disadvantages by instilling my own discipline. Whether it's structuring my work environment. Again, it's like this whole reward system of you break it down to chunks, chunking your time, and this is what I'm going to do time, and then after something else, or whatever. It's the discipline thing, and people talk about ADD and ADHD and all that, and how we are just it's right now we're at epidemic levels. I mean, while there are certainly people that have a chemical imbalance that's creating this sort of thing, I think that's something that's also created by the environment.
Absolutely.
And
that's the overdiagnosis.
I always refer to it as absence of discipline disorder.
Right.
Not because you take an ADD person like myself, and you give them something that they enjoy, and they are hyper focused. If you put them doing the things that they enjoy doing, superstar. It's when you challenge them with the things that they don't like. You put them in an environment that they're not happy in. You put them in an open air school like I had in growing up, and I can hear things going on all over the place that are just distracting to me, unhappy place,
Wow, sure.
So that's, to me, the bigger thing here, and where we need to develop the discipline to incorporate technology in meaningful ways. Personally, what's happening in the world with technology, there's amazing stuff happening,
Okay, as we wrap up, because I wanted to mention this, and I don't know, we were talking about technology, is I saw a friend from India, and this person told me that possibility of being a war between India and Pakistan. And that was like a couple days ago. Right? That was this past weekend.
Yeah, and then there was
a shootout last night. And two countries that have fought 3 wars against each other and done skirmishes in Kashmir, and now they're nuclear armed.
Yeah.
And just want to throw out there that it's February 27th in 2019, and I hope there isn't a nuclear war going on between the top, because that could escalate very quickly and be very destructive.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about all this technology and what it could do to us, I'm also thinking big time technology is like a nuclear weapon, and they each have 100. So I don't.
All right.
Well, that's
sad. Yeah, I did hear. I was listening to that today. I was also interested to find out that the Indian Air Force are flying MiGs.
Yeah. They had the connection with the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And like Pakistan was getting support from the U.S. And now the U.S. and India are really close, and Pakistan and the United States are sort of friends, but not friends, like frenemies. I don't know. I don't know what the deal with that is, but I think India is a lot closer to the U.S., but it is interesting that they had that, India was sort of like the third way, so they weren't wanting to be with the Soviets or the United States. They wanted to like run an independent sort of, we want to do our own thing with the third world, and but they wanted to kind of play off each other, so they play off the Soviet Union and the U.S., and nobody knew exactly where they were, and massively complicated and all of that. But Mastro?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on Collateral Banter, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you for letting me aggregate your thoughts and all of your abilities. Yes, and all of the thought processes that you have, and all your love for science and technology. I'll post this up. Appreciate it. Come back anytime you want.
All right, man.
Take care, buddy. See ya.